we're doing in this station is talking about initial actions by the company officer when you arrive on an auto accident or an entrapment. So what we've done in the past and what we're trying to get to everybody is to remember a mnemonic that'll help you get the initial actions that you should take every time you come across an auto accident or an entrapment. And that mnemonic is bitchin', just like surfers, all right? Not like firemen complaining, but like surfers, bitchin', B-I-T-C-H-I-N. If you remember the letters of that mnemonic, each one of those corresponds to a step that should be taken to a vehicle when you come across an accident or an entrapment. So B stands for batteries. You want to kill those batteries. The issue though, before you have your roughneck kill the batteries, make sure you do all the things to this vehicle that you need to do prior to the batteries being killed. So slide your seat back, unlock the doors, pop the trunk if you need to. All of those kind of things need to be done ahead of time prior to cutting the batteries. The battery in a conventionally powered vehicle manages all the accessories, the radio, the starter, like I said, the seats and things like that. But it also manages the safety systems like the airbags and the seatbelt retractors, all that kind of stuff. And those are critical on older vehicles, all right? Vehicles that are like the ones you see in this lot right here. On older vehicles, between the battery and that safety device is a capacitor. That way, if the battery is destroyed in the accident, the capacitor still has power in it to power the airbag or the seatbelt actuators. We're going to show you examples of those in a minute here. The issue is those capacitors on older vehicles last sometimes 30, 40, a long time where they keep the power that long. So the entire time you're working around the patient, the airbags can fire off. On newer vehicles, they've taken those capacitors and dropped it to about 60 seconds. So from the time that you cut that battery, you can almost immediately go to working on the patient and not have to worry about those airbags or seatbelt actuators firing on you. So that's critical. But first thing, if you're there first, kill the batteries after you've done everything you need to do with the vehicle that involves a battery. You don't want to try to move a seat back that's electrically powered after the battery's been cut, all right? Secondly is I for ignition. You want to kill the ignition in the vehicle. People that have auto accidents forget to turn the vehicle off all the time, or in weather like this, they're going to keep it on so they can stay warm. What you don't want is a semi-conscious patient to wake up and try to drive away on you. So kill the ignition on you right away. T is for transmission. Put it into park. Again, same kind of deal, especially on these eco vehicles that are quiet. You don't even know they're off. They're on when they sound like they're off. Somebody wakes up, stretches their leg out, hits that gas and takes off on you. So make sure you put the vehicle into park. So we've covered battery, ignition, transmission for putting the vehicle in park. The next letter is C for chock the wheels. Engine companies roll up, they don't really have chocks designed for them, but they do have their own wheel chocks. So take your wheel chocks and put it in the front and back of the wheels to keep that vehicle from moving any direction that patient or combative patient tries to move the vehicle. Truck companies, however, have step chocks. Those are the step chocks over there. You guys carry those with you. We can put those in. When we put them in, we want to put them in on the frame itself, all right? Not in front of the wheels or anything like that, but we're going to put it in on the frame. We're going to talk about where on the frame here in a second. H is for Hazorp or hose line if we're looking at an entrapment. Hazorp is great because we're going to have all kinds of fluids from this vehicle potentially, from antifreeze to transmission fluid to fuel to gasoline to whatever, and any of that is a hazard, either a slip hazard for us or a flammable liquid hazard that could light off on us. I've been in cars that have lit off when I've been inside of them, and it's really not fun at all when you got to bail out and leave a patient in there, all right? If I take that Hazorb and I pour that on there, I can take a broom and push it away, and that gets a fuel spill out of the way temporarily until you can get an extinguisher there or a hose line off of a vehicle for your protection. All right, so that's B-I-T-C-H. The next letter is I for interior trim. If we're going to have to cut on this car, we're going to want to take the interior trim out of that car, because hidden underneath the plastic trim in the A-post, B-post, and C-post along the floor line and along the roof line are either fuel lines, electric lines, but also the power units that power the airbags and seatbelt retractors, and we don't want to cut through those at all. So we want to make sure early on, if you know this is going to be an entrapment or you know you've got a truck coming or a rescue coming to start cutting on this car, get somebody in there with a screwdriver and just pop off the plastic trim. You can almost, in fact, I did it with that car over there with just my fingers, so it doesn't take much, but expose what's underneath there. Any questions on that?
Yeah, how far do you figure on expose? I mean, the whole roof line and then down?
No, you don't have to do the whole roof line, just the trim that sits on the post itself, okay? Just on the post itself. You don't have to do anything other than that.
All the way down the B-post, I guess.
Yep, all the way as far down that B-post as you can, yep.
What if there's lines and things there? Are you guys not going to cut
No,
it?
we will still cut it, but we'll know then as we know, like if I have an electric line coming through here that's powering a cylinder to fire off an airbag, I can pull that away while I cut on the actual post itself, and I don't have to worry about it. Or If I know that I will verify that the battery's been cut and the capacitors are down, all that kind of stuff. Some of them actually have connections, I can pull them apart. The issue once the batteries are down though is that sometimes when you cut them, you can also short them out and cause it to fire as well. So even though you're worried about the airbag itself firing around the driver, you could be cutting somewhere else and cause that to fire off as well. So, right, and we're going to show you some cylinders here in a second so that you see what it looks like.
So the wires that's there to power the airbag, if you cut them, it activates the airbag?
It can. It can. If you short those wires out, it can fire the airbag off. Yes, it won't always do it. In fact, most of the time it won't, but it can. It is a
way that we can determine if, or say before the heavy rescue gets there, that we can determine whether the capacitors are down or not.
Again, if it's a newer car, like a late model, I don't have an exact year, but I'm going to say 2012 and above. If it's a newer model car, the capacitors are short-lived. All these cars you see here, 90s and early 2000s, they're going to have long-term capacitors on them. So, all right. Yes, sir.
Is there a time difference between the capacitors that you know of? Is it a known time difference? You saying short-lived, longer?
So I'm saying that all the newer cars are 60 seconds or less. So by the time you get done cutting it and you come back to here, it's already discharged for you. So on the older cars, they go upwards of 30 minutes and longer. So, yep. Okay, we're going to go from this car down to the next car down here where the roof is cut off of it. We'll talk more on that at that car. The post on a vehicle, the nomenclature is important to us. So this first post at the front windshield is the A post. This middle one, usually between the driver's seat and passenger in the rear, is the B post. The final one back here is the C post. And then as you move your way back, if you're in a minivan or a bus or something like that, you have D, E, F, on and on and on. Inside of those posts are where you're going to find some of those airbags in the newer cars especially. And lots of times you can look at it and you'll see something that says SRS, Supplemental Restraint System, and that'll give you a hint that there's something in there. We're going to show you airbags here shortly. When you pull that trim off, you can see that. If you look here, in this down here, this is where the B post was. There's a firing mechanism here for the passenger side airbags, side impact airbags. So this is one of those wires that if we cut through and there was still power to it, we could short it out and fire that bag. So when you pull the trim off, you can see this stuff. Sometimes you can see the alligator connection or whatever where you can pull these apart and then you don't have to worry about it. Then that's out of the way. Also inside of this trim, when you pull this trim off, you might find fuel lines, electric lines, all that kind of stuff. So it's real critical if you know we're going to start cutting that you take that screwdriver and just start popping that plastic trim off the A, B, and C posts.
Where are the capacitors located?
I don't know that answer, so I can't tell you. Somewhere in line.
The capacitor is sitting on the airbag.
It's not on the airbag. I'll show you the airbags over there. So somewhere in the line between the battery and here, but I don't know where. I couldn't tell you that.
If we pull that, we can pretty much be assured that we've...
You probably disconnected the power to it, yep. So, all right. So you can see then that when you pull this, it's real simple. I took this with my hand and pulled this off. When you go back to your car tonight, look at your car, and you can see how easy, you could probably put your fingers in there and pull that stuff off. You want to do that in these cars, especially if you know we're going to start cutting on it. We're going to go now to that car that's on its top over there. Yeah, go ahead.
They're entrapped. You can't get the door open. Both sides are crushed in.
Right.
You're going to start pulling all that. I mean, I know you can go maybe through a back door. Maybe it's not.
Yeah, so... Yeah, if you
just-
can't get in there, we understand that, and we work around that. Yeah, we totally understand. There are times where you will not be able to access the interior of that car. One of the things that they're going to talk about inside there is that we want to get a firefighter inside the vehicle in gear early on if we know we're going to be cutting to start to talk to that person. But they can also do things EMS-wise, like stabilizing their neck or whatever. But at the same time, while they're in there, they may be able to pop that trim while they're inside there as well. Good question. All right, let's go over here to the car now. All right, this is a car on its top. We see these quite a bit. You know, it's not uncommon for us to find cars on their top. What I'm here to tell you is that as a company officer, with a car on its top, they're pretty much inherently stable. The front of the vehicle is where the engine is. That's where the weight is. That's why it always typically ends up with the front end down, the back end up, because there's less weight back here. With that said, there's really no need for you as a company officer to ask your roughnecks to come back here and put Kodiaks up to stabilize the back side of this thing, because it's pretty much stable. What you can do if you want to do anything is take your step chocks and you take them and you put them underneath right here like a wedge underneath the vehicle right here. Just make sure that you don't put your wedge over the top of the back windshield because that'll just break the glass on you. So make sure it's on frame. Moving forward here though, most of the time these people inside here are not trapped in here. The car flipped upside down and they can't get out, but they're not pinned by the materials of the car. They just don't know how to get out. So what we need to do, again, we always talk about access that passenger compartment as soon as you can. You can take out the window, just use a window punch or the tip of the point of a Halligan or whatever, take the window out, you can access and get inside the car, size up your patient, do whatever medical care you need to do, but then you can slide a backboard right to that window and slide them right out there, and you're going to even cancel the entrapment complement, if you will. Most of the time, again, I would say upwards of 90% or more, they're not actually trapped when the car is on its top. Now, the issue here, though, I told you the window glass itself is not a structural component, but that A post and that B post are. If they are trapped and you as a truck officer ask your guys to start cutting on that post, that's holding the weight of the car. So if you start to cut that A post or B post, now you've sheared that and the car can crush down on itself and make your condition worse instead of better. If we are going to have to do that, what we're going to end up having to do is support the weight of the car in a place other than that A post or B post, and that's when you'll see the rescue will put the Kodiaks up back here to support the weight back here so we can cut up there and take the weight. Does that make sense? So if you know they're trapped and you know they're pinned, you can start that process already as a company officer and support the weight back here so that we can cut that, or you guys in the truck can cut that immediately. But what I'm getting at is don't cut the A and B posts on a car on its top until you supported the weight elsewhere. Make sense? All right, let's go to the car on its side. On a car on its side, just like the car on its top over there, you don't need to waste your time with Kodiaks on this side of the vehicle. I'm pretty sure that all of you can get on that side of that vehicle and try to push it right now, and you'd not be able to get this thing back up on its wheels. All right, it would be an issue. Conversely, I could probably have one or two of you on this side, and we could probably roll it over on its top pretty easily. So Kodiaks do not need to be on this side of the vehicle. Let's go to the other side. All right, our passengers are inside this part of the vehicle. This is the passenger compartment, all right? When you put Kodiaks up on this side, you need to get them to the sides, all right? Because all of your efforts to get in here to rescue these people are going to be in this passenger compartment area. So if you move this, if you were to put this Kodiak right here along the B post, it would certainly keep this thing from rolling over, but now it's completely in your way. But you can take these things and put them lateral to the passenger compartment, and now you can still make rescue efforts in here. Just like a car on its top, most often, a car on its side does not have people trapped in it, all right? Not always, but most often. Because of that, if you just access the windshield here, cut this windshield out, or pop that rear hatchback, you can climb in there, assess your patient, put them on a board, and slide them out without any issues and cancel your entrapment complement. However, if you know we're gonna have to be cutting in there, somebody's arm is pinned underneath there, or they're actually had some serious frontal impact and they are trapped in there, then when we start to cut this, what we're going to do is cut the A post, the B post, the C post, and the D post, make relief cuts on the bottom here, and just flap this whole roof down like this, and that opens up this entire passenger compartment for us to work in. All right? The key takeaway here with the car on its side is get your Kodiaks to the side, and all you have to do is access the vehicle, and you can probably get people out without any issues. Okay? Questions there? All right, let's go to the airbag station over here. All right, these are your seatbelt retractors that you find in the vehicles, okay? So here's an example of one. Get all the snow off of it so you can see it. These sit down low right here in that running area or up high above the passenger compartment here. When an auto has a front impact, a millisecond before the airbags fire, it fires these off, which pulls the waist back and the top of their body back with the shoulder harness, which puts you in a position for the airbag then to deploy safely and affect you that way. It happens prior to that occurring. But if the battery's destroyed, that's where the capacitors come in. So even on these older vehicles, even after the battery's been cut, these can still fire. This is a cylinder we don't want to cut through. Some of these are powder charges, like a 22 charge. Some of them are compressed gas charges. So we don't want to cut through them. Will this kill you? Probably not. Can it injure you? Yes. Will it scare you? Absolutely, when that thing fires off on you, okay? So these are seatbelt retractors. When they fire, it retracts the seatbelt to put you in a position for the airbag to be safe. 3 numbers you got to remember, 5, 10, and 20. 5 refers to the number of inches that you need to be away from a side impact airbag. This sits in the B post right next to the driver. When that process happens to fire the airbags, this will fire out 5 inches, all right? So if you're 5 inches away from it, it's not going to hit you, okay? So you know you're safe. If the patient is 5 inches away or more, you're going to be safe. Same with you. If you're 5 inches away or more, it's not going to get you. The next one is the steering column. Yes, sir.
Retractors. A lot of times we make accidents. The patient complains of chest, shoulder pain. From my personal experience, I always say that's from the airbag, but in reality, it's not.
It could be from the retractor. Yep.
Pulls them out of the
It
way
could be. Yep.
airbag.
Yes.
It's really from the retractor.
It could be. Yes.
Yeah,
Yep. Yep. Absolutely, it could be. And like Captain McDonough said, it could be the bruising that you see is from that retractor forcing them back. So, all right. So this is the airbag for the steering column. This is an industry standard, 5, 10, all right, and 20. 10 is the amount of inches from the steering wheel that you need to be to prevent it from getting to you. This one's a tough one because of most of our impacts, it brings that steering wheel right into you. That's why it's important if you have that battery before you cut it to move the seat back to get that person as far back from that as you can, and also to give you room. So remember, 10 inches for the steering column. This is the this is the passenger one for the front seat. That is 20 inches, almost 2 feet. So that's how far that one fires off. You can see there's a huge difference there, right? So 5, 10, and 20 based on where you are in the car. So you've got 20 inches for the passenger here, but also 5 inches from that B-post lateral them as well. So this is why we want to kill that power as soon as we can. Questions on the airbags?